I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Welcome to Heroes 3, the bi-weekly podcast where three friends explore the best, worst, and everything in between in the world of Asian cinema. And this week we're doing another animated interlude between our arcs. First off, thank you for joining us again. It's been a little bit of a break between our last two just because of a lot of different stuff. We got to see each other in person, actually, pretty recently, which is really fun. BGM cool. Con. So if you want to go to the Minneapolis area next April, then we'll be there for BGM Con. So
yeah, that was just amazing being all together. And yeah, I think, not coincidental that the more time we spend like IRL, the less podcast content we're probably going to be.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was on a little bit of a vacation too. Actually, I do have Heroes 3 related stuff if you don't mind me getting into it.
We can do a little of that before we get into the movie, yeah.
Yeah, here where I live in Milwaukee, there's a Milwaukee Film Festival every year, and I saw that they were showing Enter the Dragon. So I was able to go to see Enter the Dragon with friend of the podcast, Mike, and they showed it on a 35 millimeter print. Very cool. The audience was popping, man. It was so cool. Before the film started, the MC got on and asked who'd seen Enter the Dragon, and everybody started cheering. And then he asked who hadn't seen Enter the Dragon, and a good amount of people got all excited. And I was like, wow, this is so cool that people get to see Enter the Dragon for the first time.
For the first time in a theater.
That rules. Yeah, and the theater we saw it in is a really nice theater too. And everybody was reacting to the movie. Honestly, I feel like, it's funny, the biggest reaction I think that I heard during the film was when Mr. Han was putting the cat on the guillotine.
Oh.
Everybody was like, no. I was like,
that's funny.
Man,
They're afraid they might have a spooky encounter situation.
Exactly. But yeah, it was an amazing time. And actually there was a podcast that was recording an episode right after it.
You'd mentioned before you went to that you were a little afraid.
I was worried. And
going into it.
The only thing, and I mean, who am I, right? But I just know how much work I put into discussing this film, and I didn't want to be like the guy in the seat like, no, you're wrong about this or you're wrong about that. But it wasn't like that at all. It was a really light, fun podcast recording, and they actually took some questions, and I actually got up and asked them a question and had a little back and forth with them. So
very cool.
I guess we could probably link to that podcast, and if you wanted to hear me,
for sure you can hear you in low quality off mic.
No, it actually turned out it was captured really well. So
awesome.
Yeah, we can add that, but that's enough about me.
Yeah, very cool.
Back to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, now we should probably move on to the actual topic of today's episode. And that is Project A.P.P.P. from 1986 and directed by Katsuhiko Nishijima. And before we even get started with this movie, I just want to read real quick. The Katsuhiko Nishijima's Wikipedia page is just one sentence and then a list of films that he's worked on.
Okay.
And I just want to read that one sentence real quick. Katsuhiko Nishijima, born February 4th, 1960. Is a Japanese animator, storyboard artist, and director known for his panty fan service with 3 citations.
All right.
I hope it's like a smiling photo, like very clean cut and friendly.
There's no picture, but that would be very funny.
So I totally get it, and it's true. Like when you watch Project A.P.P.P., you're gonna get a bit of fan service. I do feel like that description is colored by two properties.
It's only colored by the things that he's done.
Well,
his beliefs and
I mean, I don't want to I don't want us to take stances, and I'm not for or against anything right now. But so Katsuhiko Nishijima, he's the director of Project A-ko. This was produced by Studio A.P.P.P, and this came out in 1986. Project A-ko itself was originally going to be an adult content kind of thing because this studio was known for doing a series called Cream Lemon, which was like one of the earliest
kind of just porn
hentai series.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with it really, but
what Matthew probably should have been doing whenever he was preparing for this was watching, the sequels to Project A-ko, or maybe some of the other stuff that Nishijima did. What I did instead,
but you're a man of letters.
I am a man. I am a man of letters, and those letters are A, P, P, and P. But that's the studio that did it. A3P. But so I was like, I'll check out. Like, I'm just curious.
Oh, here we go.
And whenever I went to one of my sites to find it, was not on a porn site. That actually was my first check. But it actually wasn't. It was on just a normal anime streaming site. And whenever I saw it, I'm like, why are there 30 episodes? Turns out each one's like 3 minutes. Okay. So that's what it is. And I didn't like intricately watch each one. I just kind of skimmed through it. But it's funny because some of them are basically just like music videos that are like a little erotic, or just very like normal stories, but then just you see a girl getting dressed. And then some of them aren't. Some of them are, your standard kind of hentai. One has a fantasy sequence with a tentacle monster, of course. One's just a guy groping her on a train. Your standard stuff.
Nice.
But it was just interesting how many of them were like just songs and music videos, and I can't imagine the woman singing it being like, what's this for?
Right. Cartoons, you know those.
Yeah,
cartoons, Looney Tunes, Astro Boy.
I would say also later on in his career, Katsuhiko Nishijima directed a series called Aika, and that show is like just straight up all panty shots, like to like the highest degree. It's like kind of like a spy action-y show, but it's just always panty shots. So we're in the realm of fan service here, but one of the things that I would say is that Project A-ko is like one of the first like kind of breakout like anime, like this is Japanimation, this is like animation from Japan, and it says like right on the box of the VHS, it says not suitable for children.
This ain't Looney Tunes, this is anime.
But it's like
what is it that video says? The one I'm talking about?
I'm
it's
not
like
sure.
It's like a commercial from the 90s that's basically like, this ain't your dad's cartoons.
Yeah.
This is Japanese animation.
Warning, the following offer is for mature audiences only. Exciting, mysterious, intense, graphic, provocative, raw. This is no ordinary animation. This is the exotic, bizarre, and beautiful world of Japanese anime.
Yeah, that's where we're at here. And something this sits alongside things in my brain like Akira and Ninja Scroll and Robot Carnival, which was also developed by Studio A3P. Macross, Do You Remember Love? You can see like shots in this film that look straight up like Macross.
There's a lot of very
Love?
Macross stuff in
Yep.
this.
And I guess for me as a kid, learning what, like when I would go to the comic book store, there's like the wall of this week's new comic books. And then if you look over to the side, there's like a little section that was like the stuff that maybe me as a kid shouldn't be looking at. But I always remember seeing like there would be like a magazine. It's called Animerica. And one of the standout covers that I always remembered, and I have it, I didn't dig it up. I should have gone over by my parents, but I have the issue. It's like from 1994 with this. The main image from Project A-ko is the cover for the magazine.
Oh, and that's cool. Great poster, yeah.
I was also getting into like stuff like Ranma One Half, which also has like moments of nudity. But I feel like the driving force for something like Project A-ko and something like Ranma One Half I mean, it's definitely that, oh my God, you can see a pair of boobs at one point, you know? But it was also just like really cool to see like action and like science fiction and like all like, I mean, with Rama 1/2 is like fight choreography too. So a lot of these things that really appeal to me, and a lot of the things we talk about on the podcast, it was cool to see that in an animated form. And Project A.P.P.P is kind of representing all of the aspects of that because I'd say in a similar way to like, let's see, I don't know, like the title of this is Project A.P.P.P. It's parodying Project A, right? But I also would think of like Wheels on Meals, where it's like Wheels on Meals has this like weird premise. They're in Spain and they're running a food truck, but what you really get excited about seeing is like these moments of crazy action and crazy fights. And in Project A.P.P.P, you got this weird kind of love triangle that sounds like ridiculous, and it escalates to this ridiculous level. But there are these moments of amazing animation, and there's these moments of like genre, like parody, but also like parody executed at a really high level. That really made it almost like a poster board for what anime is at this time.
I mean, when it could totally see that. That's so exciting because I feel we've run into this a handful of times, but this seems like a movie that just had a mind and will of its own, and you can kind of feel it like steering away from maybe what the producers originally kind of had down on paper. And I don't know, that's always great when you have a document like that where it doesn't feel like it was tidied up afterwards. You get to kind of feel the thought process like shift like through the progression of the plot. And I mean, this seems just amazing.
That's actually interesting thing too, related to the, not to bring their lemon cream, not to bring that back up, or cream lemon, not to bring that up again, but the animation's very limited. It's very like 80s anime TV show. So I can definitely see them being like, "Oh, we got a budget. We're gonna do some crazy shit.
Yeah,
like we're gonna go all out for this." And you can definitely see it on screen.
Yeah, and what Marty's saying is pretty true because there's a director's commentary that was actually recorded around the early 2000s for one of the DVD releases, and Yuji Moriyama, who is the animation director and the character designer for the film, he said that even though there's script writers credited, they really only had maybe a third of a script written for this, and basically most of the beats as they were going through the movie, they were planning as they were going, and they were using storyboards to basically direct the film. So it's really exciting.
Sounds kind of like our Hong Kong movies, actually.
Yeah, totally. It's really exciting to hear about that. And it was also this thing where it sounded like a lot of the staff that worked on this came from working on the TV series Urusei Yatsura, which was the same author of Ranma 1/2, Rumiko Takahashi. That was a very popular anime series, and Mamoru Oshii, who's a notable director of anime, he was working on that show, and he left. And once he left, a lot of the staff kind of felt demoralized, so they wanted to break away and do their own kind of exciting project that got them all excited, and that's what Project A.P.P.P ends up becoming. So it's a lot of this really focused on the animation, not as much focused on the story, and just a visual kind of feast and set pieces.
I mean, just like the draftsmanship of the characters and vehicles is just so stunning. And that too, it seems like I like what you were saying a few minutes ago, Matthew, which is just commenting on kind of a limited budget. It seemed like the scope was like, okay, very limited animation. But as we get going, you start to see like, wait, that sequence is on ones too. Oh, that one's on. It's like they seem to be, I don't know, crunching, like working overtime, like animating for free, who knows what, but like the production value also seems to kind of escalate as you get going.
Yeah, they know where to kick in the budget.
Yeah. And yeah, I can imagine like, God, what kind of crazy document is this for Westerners? Because I think it's difficult to parse. It's like, okay, this is funny. It's intentionally funny, right? It's like this is like parody. That's intentional. It's like there's so many kind of like layers of like, I don't know, subtextual reference and culture and everything. And I think that mix seems to me like what draws a lot of people in to anime. It's like it's just so fascinating, and like you're kind of like driven to try to understand more. And I feel like I don't know, it's exciting thinking of a time like before there was, you know, any kind of like anime cultures or conventions or anything like that over here, and maybe even yet to really kind of take shape in Japan. And
this, I mean, as far as the US goes, I think you're totally on the right path for that, because it being a parody, it's kind of folding in a lot of things that maybe like a lot of people going into anime at the time, like the late 80s, early 90s in the US, they wouldn't have been as familiar with. But what you end up seeing is kind of a collection of different tropes from Japanese animation, and that's kind of, it's almost like a gateway drug into all these things, because you get mecha
like
design in here, and you get like a Kenshiro, you get Fist of the North Star parody, which I think was already kind of well known over here at the time, but still, like, you know, you get this all in one like package delivered to you. So it's kind of, I totally understand how it could kind of totally be used as almost like a, hey, come on, like start watching all this crazy stuff.
Well, and it seemed like that's what, like it worked that way for you, like in your life. It's
it totally did, and they
it's
actually
so exciting.
Yep, I even remember watching it on like the Sci-Fi Channel, because Sci-Fi Channel would do this like Saturday morning like block of anime. Yeah, and they showed Robot Carnival, and I remember them showing Project A.P.P.P, because I mean, we talked about like some of the kind of risque stuff in here, but honestly, it's small enough that you could kind of edit around it and it wouldn't affect the final product much. But so I mean, me first getting into anime, like Ranma 1/2 was a big thing for me, and then I mean all the other things like Akira and Ninja Scroll and stuff, and Project A.P.P.P is right alongside all of these, and I still would use it a lot. Like I have memories of being like, oh, like maybe one of my friends might like anime. Oh, have you seen Project A.P.P.P? Oh, I gotta show you Project A.P.P.P.
Cool.
Yeah, and I had like a
awesome.
Hong Kong.
So it's like a rite of passage kind of.
Yeah. I'm sure I showed it to Alex. I don't know if I was the first one to show it to Alex, but I made a point to ask him about it. I had a Hong Kong Blu-ray set. I'm not a Blu-ray set, a DVD set with Hong Kong subs on it.
You're very ahead of your time.
Yeah. But I still have it. I'd have to dig that out as well. But yeah, Project A.P.P.P is really fun, and I mean,
and yeah, super funny. It's like I definitely
it is. I was shocked at how funny it was,
dude. Totally. Like my brain did this kind of shift where I think I just where headspace wise where I was starting the movie maybe wasn't like very open or charitable or something, and then I can't remember the moment where it finally all switched and I realized like the movie I was actually watching, and then like from that point in just fell into it, and it was such a blast. Also, I've got to say, is like the person here like least exposed and least kind of read up on anime. I just loved this dub. Like
yeah, the dub's very fun. It's from the mid 90s, so it kind of lines up with when it got really popular here.
Cut it out, Biko. That was 10 years ago. And you can't fight for Seiko as though she's some sort of a prize. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Right? And it's I don't know. It's like the little smatterings that I have been exposed to of like some of the English dubs of anime. It's like it's maybe kind of the stuff I really don't care for in voice acting. And I don't know, this I was surprised at just kind of like how natural it felt, and it seemed to like really stick to the images and the era, so that was cool.
No, I was the comedy is what really stuck out to me, because one, I know this was what introduced a lot of people to it, but it's hard to imagine watching this and not knowing like Fist of the North Star or Gundam or Space Pirate Captain Harlock or or Macross. I guess you might have seen Robotech, but just it references these constantly, and like some shots are literally like just straight from those things and twisted for a parody. And they're all pretty funny on their own, but for me, being a big fan of Fists of the North Star, whenever they do a straight parody of it, then it was, it really tickled me.
Oh, it's so good.
There's a lot of really great physical comedies, like visual comedy that works well. Like whenever Biko is waiting before school, and there's the shot of her shoe, and you see the ants crawling over her shoe.
Oh, I love that
because she hasn't moved. That's such a good. Like that's good. That's my favorite kind of comedy, where it's both funny and also like tells you about a character. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's like an artistic, dude. Yeah, I mean, Biko is the movie to me. I mean,
Biko's so good.
It's the craziest character, and actually now I do remember like where I turned, and it was after Biko has kind of like professed alone to herself how she's like infatuated with Seiko, and then she like explains to Eiko, it's like, oh, remember you knew me, and then it was just like basically something that could have never ever been forgotten or misunderstood. Or
I remember the day everything changed, the day the wolf escaped from the zoo and almost killed Seiko. You saved her, and from that moment Seiko was never the same again.
Yeah, so I don't know, I was just like laughing out loud. It's like, no, don't remember me. It's like, I was Biko. It's like, oh yeah, I knew Biko, and it basically looked exactly like you, and we're in this exact situation that we're in now.
Yeah, some of the things that you get out of it are, it feels to me sometimes like it's like an anthology film, like riffing on what a TV series was. So you get those like repeated beats of like Eiko and Seiko late coming into school, so that's something like I mean, again, I'll go back to Rama 1/2, it would be a situation like that where Akane in Rama 1/2, every like right at the beginning of the series, they established like she challenged every guy in school, like, if you defeat me, you can go out with me. So every morning when she would go to school, everybody would just fight her. And it's like this funny gag too, where it's like, okay, this is like a high school situation, but this is like this absurd situation that plays up to comedy, and it plays up to action. And you get the same thing here with Project Eiko. Like every morning when you see that D the spy waiting, and what's going to happen, it kind of
the most
plays
natural lips in the world.
It plays up those tropes, like and I'm honestly, it really did solidify a lot of those tropes in American pop culture too, because like I know that there was an American comic of Project Eiko, and even before that, the artist his name is Ben Dunn, and there was an American like manga series called Ninja High School, and that really was like riffing on a lot of the tropes that you'd see established, like all of this stuff that we see here, like the obsessed rival, the optimistic but like dumb lead character, but is ridiculously strong for some reason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really cool. And actually revisiting it for the podcast, it was really exciting to me too, because I hadn't seen it in quite a while. I did pick up the Discotheque release, which has its own like little story to it, which is amazing. So Project Eiko had been released on DVD in the early 2000s, but it was the DVD transfer was, I think it was based on a Laserdisc version, which was like the nicest version available at the time. But there had never been like a true remaster of Project Eiko, and it had thought the company that produced it thought that it was like lost time, like they didn't have it.
Oh, I was reading about this.
Yeah. So actually, what Discotheque did is they went forward using like a AI like restoration like software, and this software they were moving forward with it, and they had announced it and showed it like in like promos and said, hey, Eiko is going to look at the best that it's ever looked. And actually what ended up happening is I don't think it was because of them. It was because somebody else. They were doing some digging with the company that stored all like the film canisters for like animation, and they said no. I think you should look again. And when they went, they contacted the Japanese company. I think they're called Togen, and they actually found like the original negatives of Project A.P.P.P. So they're like, holy crap, this is like something we never thought we would see. This is like a game of death situation almost, right? And they went ahead and did a complete from the ground up remaster of Project A.P.P.P. So that the Blu-ray that was released is like the ultimate like restoration of Project A.P.P.P. Even
That's so
outside
cool.
of Japan. That's never I don't know if this discotheque release was ever released in Japan, so it might be the only way to actually see it that way now. So it's really exciting. And not only did they find that, but they found, because like Project A.P.P.P. after the feature film that we're talking about, they released like 3 more OVAs, which were straight to video. And besides that, there was also a spinoff, which I'm not really, I don't like it at all. And I haven't seen it since the first time I saw it, like 20 plus years ago. But all of those also, those canisters were found for those, and they remastered those as well. So it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, no, and it looks great. The
it's
transfer
crazy.
looks so good.
Yep. On the Blu-ray of the Discotheque release, there's a whole like page to page. You just scroll through pages of liner notes on this process. It's really exciting. And not only that, but there's the amount of work done into just uncovering all the little Easter eggs in the movie. There's like a bunch of pages on
that's
just,
super cool.
yeah, just like images of this is what this is and this is why this is there, and it's just astounding how much love.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that company Discotheque, like I've talked about them a handful of times on the podcast, but each of these releases that they've been involved with have been amazing.
So I guess, I mean, there's not a whole lot, like the story is not super, it's not super duper important to it, but I guess we could go over like the basic premise of it. Because the movie, it's basically about, there's this girl Eiko who's a new transfer to a school, and her friend Siko is like just kind of her buddy. And every day they walk to school and then end up running to school, but Eiko is like has superpowers or something, and Biko is infatuated with Siko and wants to be her friend. It's very it's funny. I saw a thing with there was like an interview with one of the writers on it, and saying like, "Hey, did you realize how homosexual this is?" And he's like, "Oh, what? Really? Oh, huh. I didn't. That was never the intention," which is just really funny.
Yeah.
But it just escalates where there's like these aliens or just evil. They say aliens. I think I always thought they were just kind of evil humans. But this whole space battle being fought over, and seeing that Eiko is super powered. Siko gets kidnapped, and Biko and Eiko have to put their differences aside until they don't, which is such a good joke.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then they save it, and oh man, my favorite visual joke in the whole movie though is almost at the very end, when Eiko's leaving her house and we see her parents. Yeah, and her parents are almost 100% supposed to be Superman and Wonder Woman.
It's wonderful.
It's so good.
Yep. And the Moriyama in the commentary says that was something that they just decided to do at the end. And originally there was an S on that shirt. I think in the film it's a C.
Yeah,
in the Superman logo style. So then that's like a funny joke. Just like that's why she can smash through buildings. And
that's why she's basically a superhero, is because she's a superhero's kid.
And I couldn't remember it before we watched, but it's not in this one, but I think it's in part 2 where they show Biko's father, and he's pretty much Tony Stark. So
cool.
That kind of like explains why she has all this mechanical stuff. She does all
the mech stuff and is shooting missiles out of her arm and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yep. And that's fun too, how it's pulling from not just like Japanese pop culture, but from other stuff too. And I think that really helps it work. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention, and I sent it to you guys before we recorded, was the Daikon 3 and Daikon 4 short music videos, basically.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of parallel thinking in these, and they were a bit just a couple years earlier than Project A.P.P.P, but that was like this fan-made animation that pulls pop culture from everywhere. There's Godzilla, there's the Starship Enterprise,
There's
there's
Darth Vader.
like a Flash Gordon, all this craziness. And it's set to music. I think Electric Light Orchestra does. Twilight, yeah, that's right. And I think that it's not directly related to Project A.P.P.P, but I think it directly informs what Project A.P.P.P became, because it's like this kind of really exciting animation that kind of really like pulls. It's almost like it's looking at you as an animation fan or just a nerd in general and being like, we know what you like because we're like you too. It's one of these deals.
Yeah, it's by nerds for nerds.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in early otaku culture, and those are the prime examples of that. And I think Project A.P.P.P kind of sits in line with those two.
Yeah, it's neat though, because with Daikon 3 and 4, you can it's amateur. It's just a bunch of fans doing it with just doing money out of their own pocket, which it's so crazy to think of. If before Dragon Con every year, a team of animators was making a cool animation, but it could happen.
Yeah.
There's no reason it wouldn't. There's just as talented people going to that.
Yeah.
But I guess back then you didn't have to worry about, the
copyright issues.
The copyright issues. Because it just would have been an 8mm that people got passed around or whatever.
Yeah. Even with A.P.P.P, they said, if at the time that they did it, there weren't these strict restrictions like there are now. So they know that that's something that just couldn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, even Colonel Sanders ends up in this film.
Oh my God. It's funny because when I first watched the movie, I didn't 100% get it. I was like, what's that? But then Carlos shared that's a direct parody of a different movie. What was the name of the movie?
It's from Harmageddon, which is
Harmageddon. That's right. Yeah. That name rules. That's such a good name.
And it's a really cool film. I could totally see us talking about it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's a direct parody of a scene from that. And then whenever I saw that, and then when I was doing my rewatch, I maybe bust out laughing when I saw it.
No! It's the Colonel! Ah!
Yeah, it's so good.
So good.
Yeah, Aiko's just it's just super fun to me. And I think it's just me being so visually driven too. It just really excites me because we're seeing the backgrounds are just amazing to this. The character models, sometimes you get these instances where there's 3 color tones on them, so it's heavily shaded, and all the mechanic designs look really amazing.
I love the way that spaceships look in 80s anime.
Yeah.
It is my absolute favorite thing.
Yeah, you definitely see how influential something like Star Wars was, because you get these moments in this film where you see a huge, the alien starship. It looks like, the anime equivalent of the Star Destroyer, but
which is cool because it's that aesthetic comes from all this model kit bashing and
yes,
creating all these little details and textures and dirt, and it's awesome to see that rendered with this impeccable draftsmanship, and oh dude, it's just beautiful.
And as I was digging through, when you see the different staff members that either handled animation or design, there are a lot of names that would go on to do big things too, the character designer from Giant Robo. He'd also do Lunar, the Silver Star story on the Sega CD, and Idolmaster. His name is Toshiyuki Kuboka. He was a key animator on this film. And actually, I mentioned Ranma 1/2 and Atsuko Nakajima. She worked on the character designs for a lot of the OVAs of Ranma, and that was a thing that I always loved. She worked on the animation in this, and Kia Asamiya, who's a notable manga creator, actually started their career as an animator, and they worked on this film as well. So yeah, it just seems like everybody was like getting pulled into this project, and they were all really excited to go through with it. Some of the Easter eggs are pretty funny. In some of these mechanical scenes, there will be like this telemetry, like a sci-fi display with all this like graphs and stuff, and you'll see that there's some like handwriting on the screens. Actually, it's like a romaji, which is like if you write Japanese out with English characters, and some of the phrases are hilarious. Like, I can't believe the director's making me work on Christmas or something like that. That's like actually written in the feature, and it's like one of these blink and you'll miss it moments.
Yeah. That's really cool.
There's a funny thing too with one of the like space battles. You got this Macross Robotech style missile barrage where each missile has its own tail, and it looks really exciting. If you freeze it on some frames, you'll see that some of those are actually drawn to be Pepsi cans.
Oh, cool.
Yes. And I think that in itself is actually a reference to Macross Do You Remember Love, because I guess there's like a Budweiser can in one of the shots of the missiles.
Oh,
so
that's funny.
They were riffing on that as well. Yeah, there's a lot. Funny. I mean, I think especially seeing it remastered at such a high level, there's a lot to appreciate about Project A.P.P.P.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, yeah, totally. Also, just like the color palette of like 80s anime is just so awesome, because it's like there's a limited amount of colors they choose to use in a production, and that's usually very intentional, and I don't know, they're always like so harmonious. And
it's one of the classic rules of anime where you can tell who a main character is by the color of their hair. So like Eiko, Biko, Siko all have these bright colored hairstyles, and all the rest of the students in the school have brown hair.
The teacher too.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's man, not to drag something else down to talk about how good Project A.P.P.P. is. But I recently, what are they called? MiHoYo, the people that made Genshin Impact. They recently released a new game called Honkai Star Rail.
Oh.
Which actually we were talking about Galaxy Express 39 before the show. But it's about a space train in a very anime world. But it has all the things I don't like. There's a lot of modern anime I do like, but it has all the things I don't like about modern anime, because the characters are just so over designed. There's just so much stuff on them. And it just looks silly seeing, like, it looks like which is probably what they did. It looks like they made a figure first and then had to make it move.
Right.
But with 3D animation, you don't have to pare down your style. You can just have all the shit on it that you want and make it move. And there's something so incredible about watching this and seeing like, oh yeah, the characters have like 3 or 4 colors. They have like one thing about their character design, and that's it. Right. Like, oh, they have big hair, they have flat hair, they have a helmet,
Eiko herself honestly looks like the stereotypical like anime schoolgirl. The only difference really being, well, one, I think it's cool that she has like a long skirt. I feel like anything after this, the skirt's just going to get shorter and shorter. But the other thing that I like is she just has these forearm guards, and they're not ornate or anything, but I think it just kind of helps sell poses when you're in the middle of action. And I think that there also should be said, like, the animators themselves, how they sell motion in this is really good. And there's a strong sense of posing, which I just eat up. I will just endlessly eat up cool poses, and this feature is full of it. Not just her, but Biko also. Like, Biko ends up having a much more risque outfit. It's basically like she's wearing a power armor bikini, but even still, like how they like handle silhouettes and how they handle all the poses keeps everything dynamic, even when they're just standing still. And I think that's something that's been lost in a lot of things, not just animation, but bring back cool poses, everyone. Cool poses. Can cover so much ground.
They really can, because that's whenever they start like their big final fight. There's that awesome freeze frame where it's the two of them like clashing before it cuts away to our kind of space opera plot.
Oh, I love that too, because you get these cutaways of their just to their eyes, or like a split panel, like in a manga. That's something that you really don't see as much anymore either, and I really love that.
Also, at one point, Seiko does the thing that I love in anime, where a girl like it closes their eyes, but their eyes aren't what's closing, it's their pupils.
Yeah.
Which I never noticed it until someone pointed it out, and I was like, oh, yeah, it is a little weird.
Yeah, that's fun.
But it's very emotive, so.
Totally.
Yeah, Seiko, just in general, is just like, well, the basic
Huge
like
eyes,
character,
man.
character sheet is just over exaggeration of everything. Even her character trait is that she's annoying. That's it.
I mean, that also I think is so great because it's like you get a little bit of like her, the fact that like
yes,
basically everything in the movie is driven by these two powerful girls like fighting over Seiko, and
it's the girl who ripped my heart out. The girl whose face will always be etched in my mind.
Huh?
She's really funny.
Well, let's hope so.
like I feel like most viewers are like, oh man, we can't get Seiko off the screen fast enough.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I don't know. It's just it's super funny. I feel like.
I honestly do feel like something like Scott Pilgrim takes like
dude, I was thinking
energy
the same
from
thing. Yeah.
Project A.P.P.P.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's like this very grounded kind of relationship idea, but it's blown up into these ridiculous.
Honey, I'm bi-furious.
Yeah, that's so good. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's really influential. I don't think that it's name dropped as much as it should be anymore, but especially when it came to like the early 90s boom of anime in the United States, before something like a Toonami or something. I think that Project A.P.P.P. is pretty high up there to me.
But no, that could not, again, we don't want this to turn to an anime podcast, but that could be an arc, is just like the anime coming to America.
I mean,
talk about like Ninja Scroll and Akira and stuff.
Don't get it twisted. I love anime, right? Like,
I know it's just that's not exactly the energy that
so many people do this. Like,
and a lot of people do it. Not a lot. Definitely for every Hong Kong movie podcast, there's probably 1,000 anime podcasts. And that's only a slight exaggeration. So,
I mean, we could put it to the fans too. Like, if the listeners,
that's true. Yeah. If you want to hear that, if you want us to become an anime podcast, sure, go for it. Let us know.
I'm really scared.
Here is the number 3 podcast at gmail.com.
Marty silent this whole time.
Yeah.
No, man. No, I'm just processing it all.
Actually, no, Marty, not to put you on the spot, but you went to the theater to watch an anime recently, did you not?
Yeah, we got to catch Suzume, which I really loved.
Yeah, actually, an animation presence that I'm not as much familiar with. Like, all of his works, I haven't seen any of them, so I'd be excited to visit some of this stuff because his stuff is really highly
I think it would
regarded.
be great. Yeah, great to check out. And there was screening like a subtitled version near us, so
super cool.
Ran
Very
right
cool.
over. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about it. The music in this movie rips.
Oh, and I have a thing too about that.
Dude, and it's like Westerners too.
Yep.
It's like, whoa.
It is, yeah. It's Richie Zito and Joey Carbone.
Yeah.
Or Carbone? I guess I don't know is how you say it. But yeah, they were like new wave guys from the 80s.
And
if you don't know Matthew, then we don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The singers for the feature also. There's a group of singers. One of the singers is Samantha Newark. She sings In Your Eyes, which is like the scene that Marty you mentioned with Biko just chilling in the pool.
Yeah.
That's the voice actress for Jem from Jem and the Holograms.
Oh, cool.
Dude. Oh, I've got to tell
that's
Alvina.
Awesome.
Alvina loved Jem growing up.
Looking in your eyes, how I hope that you will see my heart. That our lives will meet, never have to part.
Also, Joey Carbone is from Brooklyn, New York. It's probably Carbone.
Nice. That's great. And actually, I would, saying that about the score being from a Western group of people and this 1986 Japanese animation, I have to mention Transformers the movie because I mean we got Vince DiCola.
The music also rips in that movie.
Yep.
So.
And the animation is in a similar style. We got this highly
That's true.
detailed mechanic design and just executed at a really high level. I know we're not, like I said, we're not an anime podcast.
That's true.
And Transformers kind of straddles the line there, but I would just go off if you let me talk about that movie.
I've joked about this before. If we did an episode in Transformers the movies, it would actually just be Carlos talking to himself for an hour and a half.
It would. I'd just be, once I start quoting lines, it would just be the rest of the episode is me quoting lines from the film.
But yeah, the music's so good in this.
Mm-hmm.
But any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Man, I don't know. I think it's really well paced too. I think you're just pulled through all of this madness in a way that just is really fun. Even when they do that,
watch for sure.
It is 83 minutes.
Yeah, I love it. Even when they start to kind of go through the tropes of like them going to school every morning and seeing how that escalates, it's really fun to see where Biko is going to get like basically like her revenge on Eiko every time. And I think it's definitely something that you're rewarded with. I mean, for me, like I said, it'd been a while. I got it when I got the Discotheque release, but before that, I hadn't seen it in quite a while. Watching it again, it's like, oh man, they did that and they did this, and the Easter eggs come out a little bit more. So, again, I would say we're not sponsored by Discotheque, but seriously, you should get this release.
We'd love to be though if you're listening, Discotheque.
Yeah, sure. It's a great time.
Just going through my notes, the marquee whenever they leave the movie says Spartan X Co.
Oh, beautiful!
Dude, that's so cheeky. Love it.
Which really made me laugh because, of course, Spartan X is the Japanese name for Wheels on Meals. And this is called Project Eiko. It's cheeky. It's cute.
Yeah, it's the best. Eiko jumping along missiles to make her way up to a battleship. Amazing.
Very good.
I love it. Yeah, I took a lot of notes, but I think we pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about.
One thing that we can just talk about real quick, a little too much real knowledge than just a little, poke here and there. But I did some research into this. So if you watch anime, especially from the 80s and 90s, whenever you see girls in school, whenever they're doing gym, they're always wearing these very, very short shorts that are called baluma, which is like bloomers. So I was interested whenever I was like, I hope they don't wear that now, right? Because that's like really short. Then I feels almost bordering on like child abuse to be making girls wear that. So I looked it up, and apparently that started in like the 60s and stopped in the 90s because girls were protesting it. So modern Japanese schools don't do that. Because that was like the hot thing. Because the story I read was that they got it from Olympic volleyball players in like the 60s that were wearing the short shorts, and they were like, they're all athletic and stuff, so we want our girls to be all athletic and stuff.
Yeah, so. that is a really funny scene too, because that's when Eiko and Seiko get introduced as the transfer students, and then Seiko, she's gazing out the window, and in anything else you'd expect to see like girls like running around the track course or doing like jump rope or something, but all the girls are out in those outfits piloting mecha and
they're like on mechs and
jetpacks
and stuff. It's so cool.
I love that too. And so like this is 1986, and then I think shortly after that in either 87 or 88 Gainax would release Gunbuster, which is also a parody, but also executed at like the highest level. And honestly, I mean, one of my favorite anime like series period. It's only like 6 episodes, but it just is so good. And their outfits in Gunbuster are those same types of gym outfits, and they end up also piloting mecha in the same comedic way, which is really fun.
Very cool.
We could talk about like, and those are like short episodes too. Like I guess it'd be later on, like something like Furikuri, where it's like normal sized episode, but there's 6 episode OVA. It's
Yeah,
like the
that's-
same format, and
That's how you
Gunbuster,
do it.
dude, Gunbuster hits on like so many levels. Like,
Very cool.
even if we don't cover it, you guys gotta watch that. I'm making you.
Dude, awesome.
All right. Nah, I've been wanting to check out some more stuff. So I'll check it
And Discotheque is doing a crazy release of that, like
out.
coming up, where it's like gonna be like the definitive Blu-ray release
very
of
cool.
Gunbuster. So
Love it.
look forward
Love
to
all
that.
This is a very fun movie. Again, just
Yeah,
just
totally.
going into it knowing there's going to be the fan service, but it's really not that bad. I've seen much worse.
Yeah,
The big thing that makes it not as bad, I realized this after talking to someone else about it. The thing that makes it not as bad is that there's no guy perv characters.
mhm.
Like there's
That's a really good
one
point,
guy who interacts with Seiko at one point, and she says something about she doesn't want him to get handsy, but he's not like, that's not what his angle is.
Yeah.
And other than that, there's very few male characters in the movie, which is kind of
Very
cool.
true.
Mhm.
And there's also a lot of characters that are like might be cross dressers or something. It's a little unclear. Or like drag queens. I kind of read it as drag queens.
But
'cause
even
that's more
even
fun.
those aren't like, that's not the
But yeah.
joke. I mean,
Yeah, no one's lecherous in the movie,
Yeah.
which I think is what makes it
Yeah,
like
very true.
I was saying the only
Only the
lecherous
audience.
person is
Yeah.
you, the audience watching it, is
Yeah.
the only lecherous person.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, Project A-Code, it's super duper fun.
Yeah, dude, such a blast.
Thank you so much for checking out our show. If you enjoyed it, then you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're at Heroes the Number 3 Podcast on all three of them. Do you think we should be an anime podcast?
Oh
Go
my
for
God.
it. Let us know. Either tweet at us or you can shoot us an email, heroes the number 3 podcast at gmail.com. Or anything else. You don't have to say that one way or the other. Because we're not going to be an anime podcast because next week is we've been waiting for this one for a long time. So
have we though? Have we?
we
Oh,
you
dude,
have.
definitely.
I've been waiting for Carlos to do this for a long time. So, Carlos, what is our training for next week?
Okay, so we've been basically teasing this for quite some time, and we're gonna finally do this. I've been reading books, people.
Books,
Yeah,
like from a library.
We're gonna be talking about Godzilla,
Woo!
the 1954 film directed by Ishiro Honda. Special effects by the legendary Eiji Tsuburaya. This is, I mean, I don't know, similar to like a Bruce Lee situation, I guess. Something that would go on to influence so much and continues to do so.
Dude, yeah.
Really excited to talk about this. I'm going to try to do it justice. This is something that I've enjoyed all my life, but really haven't looked at it academically, in quotes, up until this point. So, yeah, I'm really excited for us to discuss this legendary film. Not the legendary film.
Not the legendary. God, that's a
Oops.
different movie altogether.
But
Dude,
yeah.
no, I can't believe it, but
Yeah.
it's high time, I think.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
This might. I'll have to check it. This is a bad thing to say at the end of the episode. This might end up. I think this might be our oldest movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think we've done it in one order. But yeah, that's
It's a good
exciting.
one though. It's really
It's a
good.
one.
And yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
For
sure.
Right at the tail end, I did remember one last Project A.P.P.P thing I wanted to mention. That was
yeah.
kind of messed up, but actually interesting. Is that Yuji Moriyama, who, like I said, was the animation director. At the end of the film, the battleship is basically crashing, and it comedically lands like right on the spire of like
the
ship.
teetering on it.
Yeah, from the city. He said that right as they were animating this, just before there was the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion, and actually he said when he watched that Challenger explosion, it actually informed the animation of this sequence.
God.
Wow.
So when I noticed that, there's a shot, and I have the timestamps, and I'm almost positive this is the timestamp because it does look eerily similar.
Damn.
It doesn't it's not mirroring it, but it's very similar to how that. I mean, if you're familiar with the Challenger explosion, how that looked.
Some dark shit, Yuji.
Yeah. So, and he says, even in the commentary, because this was in his commentary track, he says, I understand this might not be the best thing, but this is what happened. But he was saying how animators are influenced by things, and he actually mentioned, because this was in 2002, he mentioned that in the 90s, the live action Gamera films. So this actually leads us to what we're talking about with Godzilla. The special effects team in that were influenced by the big earthquakes that had happened shortly earlier in the 90s in Japan. Mm-hmm. So it's how real life can influence things. But it is pretty messed up to see. And it's like I said, knowing that and watching it, I can definitely see the exact shot that he's talking about when he says that. But that's it. That's all I got.
All right, no, you're good. You're good.
Godzilla.
It's
happening.
It's happening. Well, until next week, we're taking a look at the original Godzilla from 1954. I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Remember your training. Heroes 3 is part of the Mercado Brothers Podcast Network.